By Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Yeah, no dog mask today. No woo today. The Flyers' 5-game winning streak ends. Hell of an effort against the Colorado Avalanche, but ultimately they fall 6-4 at home. Avs wrapping up a 5-game winning streak. Nathan MacKinnon, 5 points today. He's the MVP frontrunner for a reason, and it was just that kind of a game for the Flyers. Again, I am Bill Matcher, Director of Fun and Games for the evening. Joining me today is the one and only JP Zapata. Charlie will be on in just a little bit, but you before the game today, or maybe it was during the game, you pointed out to me that NHL Network's Mike Kelly had a tweet about the Flyers. Yeah. And it was, during this, season, obviously they've scored a ton on the rush. Right. They get a ton of rush opportunities. And he pointed out the stats in this tweet that you showed me. They lead the league in odd man rushes and breakaways, rush chances, second in rush goals, goals scored within 10 seconds of a turnover. They're first. They get a lot of these, and they need to. They live off of the volume of these high danger chances that they create with their defense leading to offense and transition. What they lacked today was on display, and it's that high-end finishing ability. I know they scored 4 goals, and there were some pretty ones in there. That Tyson Foerster goal was absolutely freaking wicked. Seriously. But you just see like a team that lives off of volume like the Flyers. The Flyers, I would say, were even with or outplayed the Avalanche through a 60-minute game today. Yeah. Outshot them by a considerable amount, but the Avalanche do not need the volume to take advantage. They have the star players, and that was, score 6 goals. Nathan MacKinnon's in on 5 of them. Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And you see the difference between the teams. I thought that was the real difference in today's game, in my mind.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. We talked about before on the show, like when the Flyers go up against teams with talent like Colorado obviously has, they're going to rely on their work ethic. The problem is that, yes, Colorado has that talent. And we also beat Colorado earlier on in the season. But one thing I even noticed, even that second line, they had troubles here with that second line of Colorado: Miles Wood, Russ Colton, and Logan O'Connor.
O'Connor has a hat trick, of course. Freaking O'Connor's screwing the Flyers. Like I always say, never trust an O'Connor.
Right. But you saw the work ethic that second line put out there. And I feel like that is what helped Colorado gain momentum throughout, because for most of this game, I feel like the Flyers look like the better team. I mean, when you look at the shots, there's a disparity there. And the Flyers definitely should have been able to get more goals in here. But like we keep talking about, yes, this Flyers seems a lot of fun. And Bill, the excitement throughout the city is being felt. Obviously, the Squirtle song has taken Philadelphia over by far. But, leading up to this game with the excitement, people are putting on the Flyers early on before NFL playoffs. People have the excitement. And this was an opportunity to capitalize on that excitement. But it was a good realization that, hey, we are almost there, but this year you should absolutely be proud of what they're doing, because they're working their ass off.
And that's they got beat today by a really good team, maybe the best team in I think they're the most talented team in the West, probably the whole league. Right. They're awesome. They've been hot. Nathan MacKinnon, again, he's the MVP frontrunner for a reason.
He's nasty, man.
But this happens so often. It's something Charlie and I have been joking about for years, and it goes back to Broad Street hockey. Flyers go on a little bit of a run. For whatever reason, suddenly the city starts to take notice. Everyone gets excited. and then something bad happens. And like today, I don't even know if that qualifies. Like they played well and lost. Like a couple of questionable goals. You know, Colorado's first goal, you'll never be able to convince me it wasn't kicked in.
Right.
The man lifted his leg and moved his leg forward to direct the puck into the net. If that's not the definition of kicking, I don't know what is. But regardless, like they gave up 6, you know. But like just kind of one of those days. I don't want this. Like everyone who tuned in today, and thank you all, the people who've been here all year, awesome. The people who've just joined recently, we really appreciate you as well. Our numbers keep going up. Awesome. Way to go.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But like, I don't want this is who the Flyers are. Oh, they got beat 6-4. It's like, I just watched them dismantle the Winnipeg Jets, the team with the best record in the league at the time, and absolutely own the Dallas Stars, who are cup contenders. They've allowed 1 goal in 120 minutes to Vancouver, the highest scoring team in the league this year. They beat Edmonton in Edmonton, held them to a goal. Like, they're really good against really talented teams a lot. Today was just not their day, and I want to get into this a little with Charlie later, but the goaltending situation getting a little interesting. I thought, like, you allow 5 goals on 15 shots, you usually get pulled. And Carter Hart, some of these, I mean, like Mikko Rantanen from the circle unloading a one-timer on a pass from MacKinnon from below the goal line. Like,
what are you supposed to do?
The expected goal on that is 1. That I don't know if it's 100%, but like those players making that play, it's usually going to result in the goal, I bet. And it did. There's also a few rough ones he lets in today, ones he could have stopped. Sam Ersson comes in. Thought it was a possibility, but with a game tomorrow, Sunday, another 1 o'clock start against the Sens tomorrow, you just go, all right, 1 goalie gets one goalie gets the other. It is what it is. Carter Hart just kind of has to get his shit together and figure out the third period. No, that was not to be. John Tortorella made the change, and I think it says a lot about what he thought was possible. Like, if this was just we're getting killed, who cares? You leave Carter Hart in and save Ersson for tomorrow. But despite the score at the time, John Tortorella is like, if we just get a couple of bounces, we're back in this game. And that's exactly what happened. They just got a few saves. Ultimately, Ersson lets in 1. But I thought it was a good message from Tortorella. Like, no, we're not out of this. I'm going to make a decision here for the betterment of the team. And tomorrow's tomorrow. We'll worry about tomorrow. It will almost certainly be Ersson again tomorrow. He only played 1 period. Didn't see a ton of action, I don't think. But I liked the move today, but it's leading to a little bit, I have called this all year, not a controversy, but a competition between the goaltenders. Might be getting to controversy time. Now, it's a small sample size. For the most part, Carter Hart has been good this year. Good to better than expected. Like, wouldn't say great, but he's been at least fine for most of the year. Since the turn of the new year, though, man, he hasn't been good. Like, he has not been good in the month of January, and it's 6-7 games. Like, it's not, oh, he's been horrible the whole month. Like, it's the 20th. He's made 6 or 7 starts. Yeah. But Sam Ersson in that time has been awesome. Yeah. This might turn into, I was watching it. I was like, this is going to turn into 50-50, and it has. This might turn into Sam Ersson becoming the starter.
It is interesting. And I wonder, like, if Ersson playing the way he has really drawn something in Carter Hart's head. Like, did he lose his confidence because of the way Ersson's playing? Because it does feel like Carter Hart doesn't play with that same confidence that we saw early on in his career here. But it does raise that question, like, what do we do with the situation? Now, pulling him out, like, here was my mindset. Like, I question a little bit, but to a certain extent, because yes, a lot of those goals, not the fault of Carter Hart. Defense definitely has to play a little bit better there. But if you are a starting goalie, and I know we're not cup contenders as much as we want to say we are, but if you are a playoff-like team, some of those instances, your goalie does have to step up. And that's where I kind of understood Torts. But that's definitely something I also would like to hear from Charlie, if Torts did talk about that a little bit, because you wouldn't think that in that situation, beginning of the third period, you're pulling your goalie and you're putting in Ersson. But this does raise an interesting topic here, especially because you mentioned, dude, we got a back-to-back. We got a game tomorrow, so we're kind of relying on Ersson to be a full 100% tomorrow. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a discussion, Bill, we're going to have for the rest of the season, though.
And if you want to maybe get down to the Wells Fargo Center tomorrow, you want to watch the Flyers, Claude Giroux coming to town. I know our boy Dylan, who did the Ducks tailgate earlier in the season, he's having an event down there tomorrow. He's hosting one of his tailgates.
Cool.
You want to be a part of this. You want to see this team up close and in person because, yes, they lost today, but they still look good. They look like a good team still. I bet they're worth going and seeing. You want to get in there with Game Time because buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, I started the show saying in this situation a lot in the past, you know, like there was just this one year, Flyers were off to a nice start, playing really well, and they had this, I think it was like an October 30th game. It was like Halloween, day before Halloween, against the Penguins, national TV. Everyone's pumped for it. They come out and lose like 7-1 or something. And like I always think of that. Like whenever the vibes are too good, we always get a little reality check, just a little boom, little cup check for the Flyers fans, just to remind you it's never going to be that good. You know, nothing can be too happy in this city at any one time.
And this team itself actually needed that today as well.
But the thing that actually went wrong today, it's not even the game. The Owen Tippett injury is the biggest issue coming out of today's lower body injury early in the third period.
Yeah, we saw that. Twisted
his knee up under him, goes to the bench, eventually ends up down the tunnel. It comes out, you know, he's not going to return. He's awaiting evaluation. This is the worst thing that could happen to this team or this kid on the best run of his career. I mean, seriously, he's scoring SportsCenter top 10 highlight goals. Like he's on fire recently. 6 goals in the last 6 games, couple game winners in there. And it's a contract year. Yeah. Like this is a horrible time for both him and the Flyers for him to go down like this, and can only hope that it's not serious. But when you see a knee get twisted like that, it's like your mind automatically goes to worst case scenario.
Yeah, yeah. And Jordan Hall of NBC Sports Philly also mentioned that he was limping. It did not look good going down the tunnel.
That's not great.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned it, obviously coming off of a great goal. And then of course, we had MacKinnon trying to do his best impersonation of Owen Tippett here today. But no, when you see those type of injuries, you're definitely are worried. And we're going to have to wait to see what the word is, of course. And the beauty of hockey is that we don't ever get a clear answer on injuries or a clear timetable as well. So we're just going to have to keep monitoring this. But no, I think for right now, this is definitely going to hurt because we talked about that top line. The top line here today was great with Tippett in there as well. So it's gonna be definitely concerning here going forward with Owen Tippett and the team.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to, but I need to hear some sort of update. Just really hoping that it's not nearly as serious because he is so much found money for this team.
Right.
If he is anywhere close to what his potential looks like based on his skill set, I mean, the speed, the shot, the size, I don't even think he's put it all together yet. I think he's just starting to get there. And if this is, I mean, guys come back from these injuries now, like blowing out your knee, if that's what, not hoping that's what it is, just like, when guys have these serious knee injuries, a lot of times it's not the death sentence it once was. Like, oh, that guy was great, and then he hurt his knee, and he was never heard from again. Like, guys come back in 6 months now. Right. I saw Sean Couturier score a hat trick in the playoffs on a torn meniscus. Like, there's the brace technology, the surgeries, the rehab that they have. Like, hopefully it's not that big a deal, but hopefully it just doesn't impact his, like, long-term outlook more than anything, because my God, he just looks like he's like this raw talent starting to put it together. Like the sky seems to be the limit for this dude. And to suffer an injury like this, man, it's giving me Shane Gostisbehere vibes where it was like, God damn it, man. You had to tear your ACL. Like, and he eventually, like, before he had the second injury, like, Shane Gostisbehere got back to what he was and had the electric rookie season and a few good years in there before the core muscle injury. So it's not like that ruined his career, but it's like, are we going to lose him when he's on the cusp of something? And that's really, really depressing.
And of course, Bill, we are Philly sports fans, right? And of course, your mind as a Philly sports fan automatically goes to a negative thought here.
Well, of course.
We've seen this
He's
before.
probably fine. Like, I bet you he twisted his knee. Maybe he misses tomorrow and he's like, that would be awesome.
Right.
I'm hoping that is the case. Like, I just twisted it up a little. I'm good. And like on the replay, JJ did point out, like, looked like his skate might have been off the ice. So it's not one of those gets stuck like you always see with the cleat. Like, gets stuck in the turf and then turns. Right. It's like, all right, well, that's a pop automatically. Yeah. Like, it did maybe the skate being up off the ice and then his knee just twists under him. It could just be, like, not ligament damage. That would be cool. Right. That would be really cool. I'm not a doctor. I'm just going off of having watched a ton of sports in my life and seeing what happens when these things happen. And what JJ, and going off of what JJ was saying, like, maybe that's the saving grace here.
At least Owen Tippett didn't skate at MetLife yet because we all know the injuries up there.
That's a great point. Man, if this keeps him out of the outdoor game, man, just the Phantoms for the outdoor game with the luck of this freaking team. The whole team's going to be on Ellis Island. Another strong game. I want to get to some positives because, again, the Flyers did play well today. Yes, 7-4 was the final. I think I said 6-4 earlier, but they had the empty netter. Yeah. They outshoot the Avs 40-25. I mean,
the crazy part, man.
Like, they had 6 goals on 24 shots on the goalies before the empty nets. Like, it's tough to win that way. But when you limit a team to 24 shots, you should probably win. And the Flyers have been doing a great job of limiting teams. But when they're looking for some offense, man, Morgan Frost has been the guy. Another 2 assists today. He's now, that's 9 points in the last 8 games for Frost.
He's a man now.
He has been on fire since the last time John Tortorella scratched him. And I have been saying all year, I just don't think he's part of the future based on how the negotiations went this summer. And it was kind of went pretty deep before they re-signed Morgan Frost. The way they talked about him, like, yeah, he's good. He's got to take some steps, though. And then he's the forward in the rotation early in this season. It's like, well, we need to scratch someone, so it's going to be 48. Tough shit. And like, finally, it kind of looks like he's cementing himself as a guy in this lineup the way John Tortorella said Bobby Brink hasn't yet. Yeah, he hasn't cemented himself as an every night player. If nothing else, Frost is cementing himself and now taking another step to becoming really freaking productive.
Bill, I just need to know what was talked about in that office that day. Because ever since that day, he's been playing like there's been nothing on his shoulder, no weight on his shoulders anymore. And even like the way he skates now, he looks so confident. The confidence is oozing out of this man. I think we need to know what happened in that office, man, because it's changed ever since then.
We do, and I'm glad you brought up his skating because I wanted to ask Charlie, like, I always think a guy like Morgan Frost, who has all the puck skill in the world, right, if he doesn't have high-end speed, is that something that's going to hold him back a little? Because unless you're on the power play, like, you got to do this shit on the move. Right. And he hasn't really, since coming to the NHL. In the AHL, I saw him do it, but he hasn't shown, like, the ability to maybe make those plays on the rush that you would hope a guy with his puck skill can. He just looks faster right now. And I don't know if there's something he's done, changed his stride. I know we've had guys work with skating instructors in the past. He looks more explosive right now. And I thought that was the part missing from his game, where he gets the puck in traffic and then gets through the traffic and still has it and pulls ahead of the congestion. Yeah. And
he's good at that.
It's not something I'd seen him do until recently, but I do wonder about that meeting. Like, in my head, it went.
John Tortorella.
No, like John Tortorella said, "Is pissed. You know how you're pissed off right now? I need to see that on the ice. Like, the things we heard about what the organization feels about Morgan Frost and what's holding him back. is a lack of physicality. Allergic to contact is something I heard said. And that hasn't been the case. Like I said, skating through, congested parts of the ice, getting behind the net where he set up the first goal today. He's just been a guy who it looks like he's not in his head. He's playing the game, not thinking the game. And that's been a huge improvement for him because he's been able to do everything a little bit faster.
Look at the best missed opportunity today was the breakaway Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee.
Yeah.
Joel had a wide open net that he missed, but Morgan, that right there,
that might have been the Flyers' best scoring chance today.
Yeah.
No, and absolutely, he makes that play through the neutral zone, sets up Farabee, and Farabee just kind of bunts a wide open net. Like might have been a different game if that didn't happen. But those are the types of, that's hockey, man. Sometimes you miss the open net, and sometimes your goalie gives up 5 goals on 15 shots, like Carter Hart did today. Like it's just those little unaccounted for things sometimes. Like, yeah, wide open shot, 2-on-1, just didn't get there, and that's kind of the difference in today's game.
And could his play be kind of going off of Cam Atkinson as well? Because Cam also has been playing pretty well as of late. We talked about the Jets game. He looks solid here today as well.
Yeah, 3 points, I think, for Atkinson today.
That one's getting some momentum here, man.
I think that was that scratch, because it was the same game, I believe. I think they were both scratched in the Columbus game.
We got Brett Gardner.
Frost and Atkinson. And since then, Atkinson has looked so much more like the guy who played the first 15 games of the season.
For sure.
Even after that, when he wasn't scoring, it was like he's still getting chances. They're just not going in. And then suddenly his play just took a nosedive.
Yeah.
He was taking penalties. He looked slow. He looked unsure of himself. He'd get an opportunity and just like panic and pass or miss the net entirely. He just looked really rough out there. And whether it was a mental reset or he just needed, the dude hasn't played in a while. Maybe he just needed a little like physical reset, whatever it was. Cam Atkinson has been a ton better recently too.
He even looks faster too.
Yeah.
He looked, he
was
overall,
everywhere the last couple games.
Even today, like they looked really fast against a Colorado team that's got some speed, and you could tell here today.
You absolutely could. And man, I guess it's time now to tell you about my friends over at Bagels and Company, Brooklyn-style bagels made right here with Philly love. What does that mean? It means they're huge freaking bagels, man. These things are gigantic. If you watched our show live from the Reading Terminal, what was that, in December? Yeah. I ate one live on the air. It was absolutely delicious. They not only have huge bagels, they have huge varieties of bagels over at Bagels and Company. Usually have 15 different types to choose from daily, seasonal specials. And when you have that many bagels, you need a ton of cream cheese options, 30 different flavors of cream cheeses and schmears. They have sports-themed ones. They have a Green Eagles. They have Phillies promotional type of stuff. All they did in the fall when the Phillies were in the playoffs. You got to check out their Instagram to see what it really looks like and get a great idea of just how good these bagels look and how big they are and the variety and selection that they have. But the most important thing is they're affordable, man. You got a lot of food for cheap, and that's what everyone's looking for. Everyone's looking for the best bang for their buck. You get it at Bagels & Co. So to check out where you can find the best Brooklyn-style bagels made with Philly love, go to thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Company near you. I did want to talk about Joel Farabee. He missed that wide open opportunity on the rush early in the game, but makes up for it with a goal later in the game. 4 shots today, played over 18 minutes. He has been maybe the most consistent player for this team thus far this season. He had 1 6-game streak without a point, end of November, beginning of December. Other than that, he's basically putting a goal or an assist up on the board close to every night. Right. He has been incredibly consistent for this team thus far. And it's really, really great to see as Charlie O'Connor is going to be joining us shortly. Yeah. We have him. We have Charlie. Okay, so now joining us, I lost my train of thought there. I got a text from Charlie.
Well, that's Charlie.
Yeah. So we'll just talk to Charlie about Joel Farabee and all the stuff that we've been over thus far. Joining us now is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, first and foremost, any update on Owen Tippett?
No update on Owen Tippett. We asked John Tortorella after the game. He said nothing. Obviously, this is the big concern coming out of the game. I just wrote an article that was published this morning for PHLY Diehards, talking about the step he appears to be taking just in terms of these last 6 games. Obviously, going into this game, he had 6 goals in 6 games. He just has been really good. And it was a worrying injury, just the way his left leg got trapped under him. You worry about knee, you worry about ankle. There are a few things that could be possibilities there. The fact that he went to the bench first made you feel a little bit better. You're like, maybe he's just trying to shake it off. But then the fact that before even the game is over, Danny Briere puts out a semi-statement basically saying he's going to be evaluated. It makes you worry a bit that they're going to have an MRI or something to check, which is concerning. And it would be a bummer because Tippett has been so good, especially recently, but also I wanted to see where this was going to go, and I hope we get the chance to.
Yeah, when I hear evaluated, my mind goes to that means MRI. So we'll see where this goes. Hopefully he just twisted it up and there's no ligament damage or something, but that just sucks, man, because the dude, he just looks like he's about to really freaking do something. And to get cut down like that it freaking sucks. So JP and I were talking earlier just about this game kind of being like a microcosm of what the Flyers are, where they are, and what they're missing. They outplay the Avs. I think for a lot of this game, they were as good or better than the Avs during this 60 minutes of hockey. They get 40 shots on goal, outshoot them, 40-24?
Right.
But they give up 7 goals. And it's the Flyers live on the volume of the chances they create with really just solid play. And the Avs have the star players. I mean, 5 points for Nathan MacKinnon. Was that just the difference today?
Yeah, I mean, it was the difference. The difference was the Avalanche have Nathan MacKinnon and the Flyers don't. If you really want to boil it down to its base level, that's what it was. The Flyers don't have a Nathan MacKinnon. The Avalanche have Nathan MacKinnon. That said, I do think that the Avalanche, and I'm not dismissing them at all, they're a great team. They are rightfully a cup contender. I think they got a little lucky today. I really do. I think they got a lot of bounces that went their way. They finished on their chances. That fifth goal that Hart allowed in real time, and even at a quick look at the replay, looked like a very weak goal. Carter Hart said after the game that it bounced off a Flyers player on the way in, and Jason Martinez tweeted at me in the locker room that apparently it went off of Sanheim's rump. So that maybe is more just a bad bounce than a bad goal. The first goal was maybe kind of a kick. This game was a pretty close game.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, yes, the Avalanche do have more high-end talent. You're absolutely correct that the Avalanche can win a game. The Avalanche can score 6 goals on 24 shots, and you're just like, yeah, that's what they do. Whereas the Flyers have to pile up the shot volume to make up for it. However, they did pile up the shot volume to make up for it. They outplayed this team from a shot standpoint. I just feel like this was a pretty even game on the whole, where the Avalanche got more bounces and got more lucky breaks than the Flyers did. That's my evaluation of it, at least.
I'm so much happened after that first goal. It's like almost an afterthought at this point. But did Torts have any comment about that first goal? Because that was a kick. There's nothing that can ever be said to me that will convince me it wasn't the most clear kick I've ever seen, maybe. Was there any comment on that post game?
I mean, look, when there's 11 goals scored in the game, you're not going to ask the coach about every single goal. So no, he was not asked about it. He didn't talk about it. He did say, however, and this was interesting to me, he did say he didn't necessarily agree with the penalty call in the third period on Scott Laughton. I thought it looked like a penalty, but I guess you could make the case that it was more Logan O'Connor holding Laughton's stick than Laughton actually, obstructing Logan O'Connor. That's fair. The bigger issue I had with that was not even necessarily that they called Scott Laughton for that penalty. I thought it was a penalty. It was the fact that they didn't call about 30 seconds before that. They didn't call Nathan MacKinnon, who basically I guess you could make the case that he was finishing his check. But if you really look at that play, Foerster pushes the puck to the boards, starts to go skating towards the puck. You can almost see MacKinnon look over his shoulder briefly and then be like, yeah, I'm going to knock him on his ass. And to me, that's interference. And it was a blatant interference call that you have to call. He was chasing down the puck and MacKinnon knocks him over as he's chasing down the puck. That to me is an interference play. if you want to say it's hockey, we're letting it go, fine, that's fair. But then don't, 30, 45 seconds later, make a call on Lawton that, well, I do think it was a penalty. I don't think it was any more of a penalty than the one that just went uncalled on MacKinnon. So no, he didn't mention, Torts did not mention anything about the first goal, about the kicking motion. He did make it a point to note that he didn't think the Lawton one should have been called, which is an interesting thing for him to say.
Charlie, JP here. Let's talk about one of the big moments here in the game before the third period. Obviously, Torts pulls Carter Hart. In comes Ersson. A lot of people talking about it. Kind of your thoughts on it, and if Tortorella mentioned it in the presser.
Not really. Look, Hart gave up 5 goals on 15 shots. Like, this is kind of what can get you to, to get pulled. When Torts was asked, he basically said we were still in the game, and he didn't specify that, he thought Hart was terrible, but clearly he wasn't happy with Hart's play and decided to go for a switch. Look, I do think we're in a situation right now where people are, for a lot of reasons, are ready to turn on Carter Hart, and I don't think that's quite fair. Like, I do think in this game, I do think in this game, even though he gave up 5 goals on 15 shots, most of them I would not pin on him. Like, the first goal, we talked about it, probably a kicking motion. The second goal, come on, it's a pass from Nathan MacKinnon across the slot to Mikko Rantanen, who has one of the best one-timers in hockey, who blasts it by him, and Hart almost made that save. I'm not going to pin that one on him. Do you hope that he can stop Nathan MacKinnon on a breakaway? Sure. Like, breakaways aren't 100% going in, but it's still Nathan friggin' MacKinnon, maybe the MVP of the league. Like, I'm not going to kill him for not stopping a breakaway there on maybe the best player in hockey, or at least one of the top 3 best players in hockey. The fourth goal, yeah, maybe he could stop that, but Logan O'Connor did a really good job of executing on that play. I mean, he skies that puck. That is not an easy stop to make. You hope your goalie can make that stop, but it's not one where I'm going to call that a weak goal. That was a very well executed passing play, and then almost like a redirect shot from Logan O'Connor that went right upstairs. The fifth goal, I thought he deserved criticism for it. I have to go back and look at it because I did not see this bounce off of Sanheim's butt, but apparently Jason Martinez believes he did see that after Hart pointed it out. I thought that one was more of a weak goal. Maybe if I go back and look at it, I'll disagree, and I'll say, yeah, that was actually just bad luck. And I don't know. I just feel like with Hart, this is something that happens in Philadelphia. You see it all the time, like with the backup quarterback. The backup quarterback is the most popular person in the city because people are mad at the starting quarterback because either he's struggling a little bit or because the team isn't doing well enough or whatever, and then suddenly it becomes, okay, well, the person we don't know as well must be better because he's not the person we know so much about and we've decided isn't as good as we thought he was going to be. I just think we're maybe reaching that point with Carter Hart. And then the fact that Ersson is playing so well, granted, the goal he gave up that put this game on ice wasn't a great one either. Just going to point that out. But I just feel like there's a little bit of like grass is always greener on the other side kind of thing. And Philadelphia fans can fall into this trap a lot with key players like a quarterback, like a goalie. I don't know. I'm not saying Carter Hart's been perfect. He has had a penchant this year to give up some weak goals. His overall numbers are still pretty good. I mean, they're probably down after this game because you give up 5 goals on 15 shots. I'm sure it's not going to help your save percentage. But I don't think Carter Hart's been bad this year. I think he's been fine. I think it's fair to hope he can be better than fine. But I also don't think he's been so bad that it's like, yeah, just toss him out and bring Ersson in, because what's going to happen is in a year and a half when you know Sam Ersson better and he has a stretch of 6 just okay games, people are going to be losing their shit and saying, well, start Alexei Kolosov because he's better than this guy. Like, this is just what fans do, and I do think it's a little unfair that Hart is taking this much crap from the fan base, given the fact that he's been pretty good this year. Like, this isn't a guy who has an 890 save percentage. He's having a pretty good year. Maybe cut him a little bit of slack.
Yeah, I think for the most part this season, Carter Hart has been fine or better than fine. It's just in January, and we're talking about 5-6 games, like you said. Like, in January, he has not been very good. And that juxtaposes with Samuel Ersson, who's been great. Like, it's just kind of happening at the same time. Do you think, like, in January coming into today, Carter Hart, .899 save percentage. Like you said, 5 goals on 15 shots. That's probably going to go down quite a bit, especially with the small sample I'm looking at. But all season I've called this not a controversy, but a bit of a competition. Could we start seeing Ersson get a little bit more than 50% of the starts?
Well, I mean, you could make the argument that he's already starting to do that. Like, he started on Thursday, Hart got this game, Ersson's going to get the second game, and that was after a 2-day break. So you could make the case that it's already happening, that they're starting to give a little bit more of the workload to Ersson. I do not think, though, and I know this is not what fans want to hear because they're all out on Hart and they're all in on Ersson. I do not think this is a situation where Sam Ersson is going to take over the number 1 job and relegate Carter Hart to the backup job. I think they think far too highly of Carter Hart, and rightfully so. I think he's a good goalie. I don't see that happening. I think it's very much a 50-50 timeshare right now, or darn close to it, and it deserves to be. But I guess this is something that's always frustrated me about Philadelphia fans, is just the obsession over what just happened. It's the recency bias, and I do think that recency bias is playing a big part in people's frustration about Carter Hart and also their excitement about Ersson. Don't get me wrong. I really like Sam Ersson. I think Sam Ersson is going to be a darn good starting goalie in the NHL, and I am probably on the side of, at some point over the next year or so, maybe look to move on from Carter Hart and give the net to Ersson, because Ersson is going to be a lot cheaper. I don't really necessarily want to give Hart the kind of contract he will want, but I'm also not of the opinion that Carter Hart is trash, which is some of the stuff I see on Twitter now, and I just think that is a dramatic overreaction to both minor struggles from Hart at the moment and Sam Ersson playing really, really well over a relatively small sample size.
Charlie, we could have Martin Brodeur here in Philadelphia. We still wouldn't be happy. Let's talk a little bit about Morgan Frost, man. Ever since the conversation in the office with John Tortorella, he's played so much differently here. For you, what's the main difference in Morgan Frost's play?
Well, I've talked about this on a few post-game shows. I think his pace is through the roof. I think he's just playing faster. And I think he's trying higher skill plays. Like, we've always known he's had the skill. He showed it in juniors. I mean, I cover practices every day. He shows these crazy moves off in practice, and you say to yourself, why doesn't he do this in games? I think the confidence is there now where he's trying them a little bit more often in games. And I just think he's feeling it. Look, like, we talk about this all the time. You know, why is this guy playing so well? Because he's a good NHL player, and good NHL players for 2-3 weeks at a time can look like amazing NHL players. And right now, Frost is feeling it. Now, can he keep this up the entire second half? I guess we'll see. And, I mean, I guess you could make the argument he sort of did last year, at least from a point standpoint. But I do think that what we've seen from him over these last couple weeks has been better than the Morgan Frost we saw the second half of last season. I think he's been more consistently impactful as a playmaker, as a dynamic playmaker, I guess is the way to put it. I'm intrigued to see if he can keep this up for the rest of the season, because if this is just who Morgan Frost is going to be through the middle of April, then maybe we have to reevaluate whether he does legitimately have a place here as a long-term second-line center.
No, that's watching Morgan Frost right now, and you bring up his pace. Like, he just looks faster to me. Like, maybe he's just trying these things at speed for the first time because he has the confidence to do it. But he's fighting through contact. He's fighting through, like, congested parts of the ice, maintaining the puck, stronger on the puck. Everything he's doing just seems so much crisper now. And I am questioning, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a place for him in this team's long-term future. Maybe he's going to be able to change the coach's mind and whoever else is going to be, in charge of these personnel decisions. Because he looks like, you mentioned, last year he put up the points. But we compared it like, all right, you look at the second half Owen Tippett had, you look at the second half Frost had, it was like, oh, look at the box score. Morgan Frost had some points. Owen Tippett took over shifts, took over periods. Morgan Frost looks like that now. He is, several times you have said, I think he was the best player on the ice tonight. I think he was one of the best players. Like, that's what Morgan Frost looks like he's developing into. The consistency is what he's going to have to find. That's what everyone struggles to find. That's the hardest part. Someone who has been damn consistent for this team this year. Joel Farabee, man, scores the goal. Now, bunts an absolute, it looked like tap-in on a great setup from Frost, but makes up for it later, scores a goal. You look at, like, his game logs. He had one streak of 6 games without a point end of November, early December. Other than that, he gets on the scorecard pretty consistently. What have you seen out of Joel Farabee recently and on the year as a whole?
I mean, I think he's had a really good year. This is a guy who, at 5-on-5, has been one of the best efficiency scorers, not just on the Flyers, but in the entire NHL. That said, I don't think he's been perfect. I believe it was on, I think it was the second O'Connor goal. He had a turnover in the neutral zone leading up to it. So it's not like he had the kind of game where I could say to myself, like, yeah, he was the best Flyer on the ice. He made plays. He was good, and I'm not even gonna hand wave away his goal as saying that, oh, that was just Frost, because he's got a defenseman draped all over him. Farabee does. I mean, he's battling through a check to tap that in. It's not like he was left open. Like, he's battling to get these goals. He's battling to get to the high danger areas, and that's what you want to see from a guy like Joel Farabee, who, while he's certainly put on muscle and weight over the last year, he had a big summer, he's still a relatively skinny guy. He's never going to be a big player, but you want to see him play big. And I think over these last few games especially, he's had some really, really good forechecking sequences where he's won puck battles against like 2 or 3 guys. That was a really good goal. He just keeps finding a way to impact games. And look, he's not a finished product. You want to see him avoid those kinds of turnovers, especially against a team like the Avalanche. They could just turn neutral zone turnovers into goals with a snap of their fingers. But I do think that Joel Farabee has been one of the Flyers' best players this season, without a doubt. Like, there's a reason why I gave him an A in my midseason report cards from this week at allphly.com. He's been great, and he's found ways to be impactful on a nightly basis. He found a way to be impactful tonight.
I just have to point out, because it really made me laugh, from Spiral Out, a comment that says "Heart for Cutter." That's good stuff right there.
All right, let's talk, because the fan base has been talking about this. Let's talk about the captaincy here. All right, so there's been a lot of
oh geez, really?
There's been a lot of fun going on about TK as the captain here. But what I will say here, Charlie, in the second period, I really did love the goal that TK scored. And I love the way he tried to bring the momentum back to the Flyers, get everybody up. Just your thoughts on just the captaincy, where we're at right now in 2024 with that.
Well, do you want me to talk about the captaincy, or do you want me to talk about Travis Konechny as the captain?
Just TK's leadership.
That's a good place to start.
I mean, he's definitely one of the team leaders. He's turned himself into that. He's certainly an emotional leader, I can tell you that. He is a guy that the team looks to kind of, drag them into the fight in a lot of ways. The article I did this morning, or I did it last night, it was published this morning, about Owen Tippett. Tippett said, and this cracked me up when he said it, but it does speak to, Konechny maturing as a player and a person. Tippett basically said that, he picks the brains of the people that sit around him in the locker room. And he's like, Sean Couturier. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Travis Sanheim. Yeah, that makes sense. He's a smart guy. Travis Konechny. I'm just like, what exactly are you picking his brain for? But the thing is that, like, Konechny is developing into a guy who is willing, not even just is willing, but is able to help out teammates like Tippett, who's able to give pointers on, like, hey, we're both right wingers with plus skating and a really good shot. This is how I attack situations. Maybe try that when you're in a pinch or whatever, or work on that in a practice session. I think Konechny is very much developing into a team leader. Now, is he the captain? I don't know. I mean, this is really just look. All this really is something that was created by Dr. Evil Gritty, and then Dr. Evil Gritty on Twitter is just pushing it relentlessly because he wants to troll, which he's very good at. So props to you, Dr. Evil Gritty. However, I do not think that this is like a foregone conclusion that Travis Konechny is ultimately going to be the captain that John Tortorella picks. I don't think that is a foregone conclusion. I do think he's one of the leaders. I think that when the Flyers are at the point where they do believe they can set a traditional leadership core, with one guy with a C, a couple guys with A's, things like that, I do think Konechny will end up with a letter. I think that's going to happen. Now, whether he is ultimately the captain, I don't know. Maybe. It's possible. And that's something 4 or 5 years ago I never thought I would be saying about Travis Konechny. But I'm not ready to slap the C on him yet. Let me put it that way.
Man, just thinking, you mentioned Owen Tippett, and like, I really wish the conversation we'd had earlier about Owen Tippett was just like, oh, this fun thing we've been talking about with his stick. But no, it's a depressing thing. Hopefully not as depressing as it possibly could be, but something never depressing. It's Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. It's time for that, Chuck. So hit me with star number 3.
All right, so I'm going to go a little bit off the wall here for my star number 3. I thought about Travis Konechny. You're hearing horns honking here because they're switching over the ice for the Villanova game today at Wells Fargo Center. So if you hear background noise, that's it. Anyway, I thought about Travis Konechny as my 3rd star. I was considering it. I was leaning towards it. I decided in the 3rd period to go a different way. My 3rd star selection is Rasmus Ristolainen. I thought he had a really good game. You see, early in the game, he tries to basically go inside out on Cale Makar and kind of pulled it off. Yeah. I thought he was skating well the entire game. I thought his setup, like the key play of this game, if the Flyers had won it, in my mind, is the Cam Atkinson goal. The goal that cuts it to 1. The arena's rocking. You know, the Wells Fargo Center was like everyone in the crowd was waiting for an excuse to get loud. That goal gave the arena an excuse to get loud. They had that 2-minute shift right after the goal where they're just in the offensive zone, almost score a few times. Cam Atkinson gets the goal, and props to him. I'm glad that he's back going again. That goal happens because Rasmus Ristolainen finds him from the point with like a slap pass right in front of the net. Ristolainen, I thought, was great tonight. Didn't lead the team in minutes, but if you're looking at advanced metrics, he had fantastic advanced metrics. He was on the ice for 4 of the 5 Flyers goals in this one. And if you're looking at his 5-on-5 expected goals, 72.89% per natural stat trick. That was the highest of any Flyers player on the team, aside from Owen Tippett, who did not finish out the game. So I'm going with Risto as my 3rd star. I think he played really well.
Charlie just going off the wall with these. I mean, last game, the 3 stars were a tiny bit controversial, but now you're just going, no, I mean, Rasmus Ristolainen in a game where the Flyers give up 7 goals. I know it's not always the best stat, but if you're +2 in a game where your team gives up 7, you probably had a pretty good game. Like, just a thought. So let's go now to star number 2.
All right, well, I mean, I have to do this. I have to give a shout to my O'Connor brethren. Logan O'Connor getting the hat trick. I mean, seriously, though, it wasn't just that he got a hat trick. The Avalanche, the reason why the Avalanche are not the juggernaut that they were a few seasons ago, they're still very good, don't get me wrong, but they're not that completely loaded team, is because they've had to cut into their depth to pay for a lot of the guys that they had to give full contracts to. Like, there was a time where Nathan MacKinnon was on like I think it was like a $6.8 million contract. Like, when you have one of the 3 best players in hockey getting paid $6 million less a year than he should, yeah, you can put together an absolute loaded roster. Suddenly, when you have to pay him what he's worth, your depth suffers. And I think one of the reasons why the Avalanche lose a little bit more than they did back then is because they don't have the same depth they had before. When you have a guy like Logan O'Connor getting you 3 goals and providing that depth, that, it's not that the top guys have to do everything, because they have guys further down the lineup who can help. Logan O'Connor, I think, was a pivotal part of this game, because if this game is just the Flyers versus the MacKinnon line, as great as Nathan MacKinnon was, the Flyers might win that game. But suddenly it's the Flyers versus MacKinnon and the second line, and that was just too much for the Flyers to handle. And Logan O'Connor, in my mind, was the driver of that second line success.
It looks like in the box score, MacKinnon only has 4 points now. I thought it was 5, but now only the 4. So, and not even that crazy a day. But now let's see who you have. I mean, this nepotism, star number 2, but I get it. He did have a hat trick. Let's see who you have at star number 1.
I mean, we've said his name quite a few times during this star dishing out already. It's Nathan MacKinnon. He was the best player on the ice. He might be the best player in the league. It's pretty much just like him, McDavid, and Matthews, and it's take your pick. But you could, if someone told me they believe that Nathan MacKinnon is the best player in hockey, like, I wouldn't laugh at them. I'd be like, I might not necessarily agree with you, but I think it's a reasonable choice. And Nathan MacKinnon played today like he was the best player in the league. And, we talked about it a little bit earlier on the show, that this does speak to the fact that the Flyers don't have a guy like this. They are hoping that in a couple years, Matvei Michkov could be a guy like this. But right now, they do not have a guy anywhere close to the level of Nathan MacKinnon. And I am not, I'm not saying this to demean guys like Travis Konechny and Sean Couturier and Owen Tippett. Like, they're good players. They're not Nathan MacKinnon. I think they would even admit they're not Nathan MacKinnon. And today, you got the best of Nathan MacKinnon, and the fact that he got just a little bit of help from the rest of his lineup, that was enough to beat the Flyers.
Charlie, I'm a little upset that the birds of the Wells Fargo Center didn't get any of the stars. Come on, Charlie.
Well, there's 4 of them. It's hard to choose,
Yeah, right. Am I just going to give the star to the flying V to the whole flock?
Charlie, were there anything else come out in any of the press availability before we let you go for the day?
Not really. Torts was unsurprisingly short with the media. I think the presser lasted about 90 seconds.
Wow.
And it wasn't that he was, I don't think he was angry at the team. I think he's just a competitive guy, and he was ticked off they lost a game that they could have won. And he was not in the mood to give long answers. He did acknowledge, I asked him a question about the fact that, like, against this Avalanche team, you didn't make a lot of mistakes, but you almost can't make any because they're so good at punishing you. And he said, yeah, the second period, we maybe were a little cavalier with the puck. We had some errors, but in the end, they just capitalized on their chances. It wasn't that we gave up a ton of chances. It was they capitalized on their chances. Part of that is that they're a really good team. Part of that is that sometimes teams just capitalize on their chances. This was a game where the Avalanche, look, as good of a shooting team as the Avalanche are, and they are one of the best shooting teams in hockey, to score 7 goals on 24 shots, like, that is an unsustainable percentage. You're not gonna be able to do that an entire year, even accounting for the fact that one of them was an empty netter. Like, that's not a sustainable shooting percentage over a full season. Over one game, you can pull it off, and over this game, the Avalanche did.
Yeah, it was just a crazy, like, it's the Avs. They're awesome, and they had the bounces tonight. It's hard to win those games. All right, Charlie, we'll be right back here tomorrow afternoon for the Senators game. You will be down at the Farg. JP and I will be here. Kelly Hinkle will be here. So it's going to be a full house post game.
Hell yeah.
We will talk to you then, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
Take it easy, Chuck. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I don't feel the need to go super long today because that was a bummer. Yeah. Like, just the Flyers played well, and it might be the worst loss of the season, not because of the result of the game. I'm going to be worried about Owen Tippett until we're told what the time frame is, what the injury is. Yeah. I'm going to be worried about what's going on with Owen Tippett until then. But that shouldn't, I guess, maybe overshadow the fact that Flyers played well against an awesome team today, and they just keep doing it. John Tortorella told us, you don't know what you have in a team until late January. It's January 20th. Mm-hmm. The Flyers are better these last few weeks than they were a month ago. Yep. And I know, like, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop with this team. And, like, maybe today was the start of it. Okay, like, they've had some pretty good health thus far. A couple of guys have been banged up, but nobody for an extended period of time. Nobody who's, other than Noah Cates, like, a major part of the lineup. Maybe this is the beginning of a decline, but they're playing really well to my eyes. Like, it's going to take a dramatic shift for them to suddenly just fall out of this thing. So something we're going to focus a little bit more on tomorrow when we have the full group here for post game. Like, we've talked so much about doing what's right for the rebuild. Like, we have the conversation, like, okay, it doesn't matter that, like, and they're telling us, like, John Tortorella just the other day was like, I know we're playing well and we're in it, but we can't fall in love with guys. We can't worry. Like, this is still, at least one eye on the future is what this team is doing. I wonder if we've, like, kind of lost some of the human element. And, like, John Tortorella seems so into the human element of things. It's, like, kind of almost weird for him to have said that already. But, like, I wonder what it's going to do to this locker room. We keep hearing how much they all really like playing with each other, how happy everyone is to come to the rink. And listen, that's not a surprise. Winning breeds good culture. Who has the best cultures? Winning teams. Yep. Like, what happens when you start losing? Your culture declines. It's why, like, oh, you know who the best captain is? Taves. You know why? Because he won 3 cups. You know who's a bad captain? Giroux, because his team's bad. Like, yeah, or one of those teams has good players and one doesn't. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes. But, like, I wonder how they're going to balance what they're going to do, like, what's right for the rebuild versus can we trade away a third of our defense when we're second in the Metro by a game? Right. Like, are they actually going to be able to pull that trigger? I'm just looking forward to seeing how they handle this. And it's a bigger conversation I want to have tomorrow. But the Flyers will play 18 games now between tomorrow and the trade deadline on Friday, March 8th. Yeah.
And we'll have we don't have any games in the West Coast, so we'll be having 7 o'clock puck drops. That'd be great.
It will be. And I'm just, when they told us the players will decide how long this rebuild takes, the players will decide what happens at this deadline. That's what's going to happen over these next 18 games. And we'll be here for you for all of them.
Oh, yeah.
That'll pretty much do it today, unless you have anything else, JP.
Well, I want to leave people with something positive here. So still, the Flyers are 2 points back of the New York Rangers. The Rangers, if you guys want to stay up, they are playing against the Kings
at
10:30. Yeah, biggest Kings fan here. So it should be. I'm a big Packers and Kings fan tonight, Bill. So everyone enjoy that. So 2 points behind the New York Rangers in the Metro.
They're still 2 points back. We're going to see what happens with the Kings tonight. Hoping to see a nice effort out in LA. I think that game's at 10:30.
That's right.
So after the playoff football wraps up, watch a little late night West Coast hockey. All right, that will do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, make sure you're following us right here on YouTube. Set your reminders so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and wherever there are podcasts. Oh, yeah, and we still have another read to do. That's my fault. Great production there. And it's our boys over at FOCO. FOCO has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Whether you're looking for team apparel for the season ahead, they've got overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, anything you need for game day, or maybe you need some accessories, toys, collectibles, or novelty items for your man cave, she shed, or podcast set. You've got to use FOCO for all your team gear needs. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of the show for all non-presale items. Use promo code PHLY10. That's PHLY10 for 10% off at FOCO today. All right, this has been Flyers, PHLY. I'm sorry. Now my mind's all over the place. This has been PHLY Flyers postgame presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/PHLY for more information. All right, now we're actually done. My name is Bill Matz. For JP Zapata, for Charlie O'Connor, we'll see you tomorrow,
See you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.